It all began with an ending, as so many profound life changes do. The relationship had been my entire world, a universe of two built on shared dreams and whispered promises. When it fractured, it did not do so quietly. It shattered into a million pieces, leaving me adrift in a cosmos of my own making. The pain was not just an emotional ache, it was a physical presence, a weight in my chest that made breathing a conscious effort. I found myself replaying every moment, every word, every silence, searching for the exact point where our shared future veered off course. It was a forensic examination of a love that had expired, and I was both the detective and the victim. The silence that followed the final goodbye was deafening. The world, once vibrant and full of color, seemed to have been muted, drained of its vitality. I was surrounded by well-meaning friends who offered the usual platitudes. Time heals all wounds, you'll find someone else. It wasn't meant to be. But their words felt like trying to patch a gaping hole with a small bandage. My grief was not just for the person I had lost, but for the version of myself that had existed within that partnership. The monogamous ideal, the one and only, had not just failed me, it felt like it had fundamentally betrayed my trust in love itself. This period of intense sorrow was also a period of intense questioning. I started to dissect the very structure of the relationship I had held so dear. Was the expectation of one person to fulfill all my emotional, intellectual, and physical needs a realistic one? Was it fair? The model of serial monogamy, where we are expected to grieve, heal completely, and then transfer our entire capacity for love to a new, single individual, suddenly seemed incredibly inefficient and fraught with pressure. It felt like a cycle of boom and bust, of total investment followed by total loss, and I wondered if there was another way to experience love and connection. The exploration that followed was not born from a desire to escape pain, but to understand it and perhaps rebuild from it in a more resilient way. My heartbreak became a catalyst, forcing me to look beyond the conventional scripts of romance that society had handed me. It was a painful, raw, and disorienting journey, but it was also the beginning of a profound re-evaluation of what it means to love, to be loved, and to heal. It pushed me to question the very architecture of connection, and to wonder if a different blueprint for relationships could offer a more sustainable and emotionally honest way of living and loving. In the aftermath of the breakup, I was left with a profound void. This emptiness was not just the absence of my former partner, it was the absence of the structure that the relationship provided. Monogamy had offered a clear map for my emotional life, a single focal point for my affection, a designated person for my vulnerability, and a shared narrative for my future. When that was gone, I felt lost without a compass. The expectation to simply move on and find a new singular focus felt jarring. It was as if I was being asked to erase a significant part of my emotional history and start from a blank slate, which felt both impossible and deeply inauthentic to my experience. This void forced me to ask some difficult questions. Why do we treat love as a zero-sum game? Why must the arrival of a new love necessitate the complete emotional departure of a past one? We are capable of loving multiple friends, multiple family members, and multiple children, each with a unique and non-transferable affection. Yet, when it comes to romantic love, we are taught to believe in a model of scarcity, where our heart has a limited capacity that can only be directed at one person at a time. This paradigm suddenly seemed restrictive, a cultural construct rather than an inherent truth about human emotion. The idea of monogamy as the gold standard of relationships began to feel less like a romantic ideal and more like a social contract with very rigid terms and conditions. It promises security and exclusivity, but at what cost? For me, the cost had been a devastating collapse when one pillar of my life was removed. I started to wonder if diversifying my emotional portfolio, so to speak, could create a more stable and resilient emotional foundation. What if connection wasn't about finding the one, but about building a constellation of significant relationships, each shining with its own light and contributing to a greater whole? This line of questioning was not an indictment of monogamy for everyone, but a personal realization that it might not be the only, or even the best, model for my own healing and growth. The singular focus it demanded had amplified my sense of loss and isolation. I began to crave a model that allowed for continuity, for the gentle and respectful transitioning of emotional energy, rather than the abrupt and often brutal severing of ties. I wanted to explore a way of relating that acknowledged the enduring impact of past loves while making space for new ones, a system that embraced abundance over scarcity. In my search for a different model, I began to formulate a concept I call bigamy on the Z-axis. This is not bigamy in the legal or traditional sense of being married to two people simultaneously in a flat, parallel structure. Instead, the Z-axis represents depth, time, and transition. It's a way of conceptualizing relationships as layered, existing one after another, but with intentional and respectful overlap. It is the practice of maintaining a fond, albeit transformed, connection with a past partner while consciously and transparently beginning a new one. It is about honoring the past without being trapped by it. The Z-axis model rejects the idea that we must completely sever emotional ties with a former partner before we are ready to love again. Instead, it allows for a period of managed transition, where the emotional energy of the previous relationship is not abruptly cut off, but is allowed to evolve into something new. A friendship, a fond memory, a respectful distance, while the seeds of a new connection are planted. This temporal bigamy is about holding space for the emotional resonance of the past while actively building the future. It's a multi-dimensional approach to the heart's timeline. This concept directly challenges the societal script that dictates a clean break. We are often told that staying in contact with an ex is a sign of not being over them, that it's unfair to a new partner. But what if this process was transparent and honest? What if a new partner understood that the affection for a past love does not diminish the potential for a new, powerful connection, but rather enriches the emotional landscape of the person they are getting to know? The Z-axis approach is rooted in emotional honesty, acknowledging that our past relationships shape us and remain part of our story. Essentially, bigamy on the Z-axis is a framework for compassionate continuity. It's a way to avoid the destructive cycle of total emotional demolition and reconstruction. It allows for a more fluid and less traumatic movement through life's relational chapters. This approach requires immense maturity, clear communication, and defined boundaries from all parties involved. It's not about clinging to the past, but about integrating it into a more complex and holistic present, creating a richer, more layered personal history of love and connection, rather than a series of disconnected, isolated episodes. To implement the concept of bigamy on the Z-axis in a practical and ethical manner, I developed a personal guideline I call the 3-month rule. This is not a rigid universal law, but a structured framework for managing the transition between significant relationships. The rule designates a 3-month period of overlap, a temporal space where the old relationship is formally ending and the new one is consciously beginning. It is a dedicated time for emotional processing, communication, and boundary setting, ensuring that the transition is handled with intention and respect for everyone involved, including oneself. During the first month, the focus is on acknowledgement and communication. With the former partner, this involves conversations about redefining the relationship, moving from a romantic partnership to one of friendship or respectful distance. With the new potential partner, it involves complete transparency about the situation, explaining that you are in a structured process of concluding a previous chapter and that your emotional availability will grow over this period. This honesty prevents misunderstandings and sets a precedent for open dialogue, which is the bedrock of any healthy connection, polyamorous or otherwise. The second month is dedicated to emotional recalibration. This is the heart of the transition, where one actively works to shift the focus of their primary, emotional energy. It involves consciously detaching from the old romantic patterns and expectations while simultaneously investing more deeply in the new, burgeoning connection. This is a delicate balancing act, requiring self-awareness to manage lingering feelings of grief for the past relationship while nurturing the excitement and hope for the new one. It is a period of active healing, not passive waiting, where one takes ownership of their emotional landscape and directs its evolution. The third and final month is about consolidation and forward momentum. By this point, the relationship with the former partner should have settled into its new, non-romantic form, with clear boundaries in place. The connection with the new partner should be strengthening, built on the foundation of honesty and patience established in the preceding months. The 3-month rule provides a finite and manageable timeline, which prevents one from getting stuck in an indefinite state of emotional limbo. It is a tool for creating a gentle, structured off-ramp from one love and a clear on-ramp to the next, fostering healing and growth rather than chaos and heartache. Embracing any form of non-monogamy, even a transitional model like bigamy on the Z-axis, means, well, navigating a sea of societal judgment and deep-seated prejudice. The dominant cultural narrative champions monogamy not just as a choice, but as a moral imperative. Any deviation from this path is often met with suspicion, misunderstanding, and condemnation. People who practice polygamy or polyamory are frequently stereotyped as promiscuous, incapable of commitment, selfish, or emotionally damaged. These labels are not only hurtful, but also fundamentally misunderstand the intention and care that go into ethically managing multiple relationships. One of the biggest challenges is the perception that polyamory is simply an excuse for infidelity or a fear of commitment. But in reality, ethical non-monogamy requires a higher level of commitment, a commitment to radical honesty, complex communication, and the emotional well-being of multiple people. Unlike cheating, which is based on deceit and secrecy, ethical polygamy is built on a foundation of consent and transparency. It requires individuals to confront their jealousy, insecurities, and desires head-on, engaging in difficult conversations that, honestly, many monogamous couples might avoid. It is the opposite of taking the easy way out. This societal bias creates practical and emotional hurdles. It can lead to alienation from friends and family, who do not understand or approve of one's relationship choices. It can create challenges in professional settings, and even lead to housing or employment discrimination in some cases. The constant need to explain, justify, and defend one's private life can be exhausting. This external pressure can strain relationships that are already complex to navigate. It forces individuals to be not only partners and lovers, but also educators and advocates for their way of life, carrying the burden of challenging centuries of ingrained social norms. Despite these challenges, the act of living authentically in the face of societal disapproval can be empowering. It forces a radical degree of self-acceptance and conviction. It requires building a strong, supportive community of like-minded individuals who can offer understanding and validation. Overcoming these external obstacles strengthens the internal resolve and clarifies one's own values. It is a testament to the belief that there is no one-size-fits-all model for love and that personal happiness and emotional health are worth pursuing, even if the path is less traveled and met with resistance from the outside world. For any relationship model to succeed, but especially one involving multiple partners, communication must be elevated from a helpful tool to the very cornerstone of its existence. In polygamous or polyamorous structures, assumptions are, honestly, pretty dangerous. Nothing can be taken for granted. Every boundary, expectation, and feeling must be articulated with clarity and compassion. This is not about incessant talking, but about creating a culture of radical honesty where all parties feel safe to express their needs, fears, and joys without fear of punishment or judgment. This level of communication is not just a practice, it is a discipline. The complexity of managing emotions for more than one partner necessitates a proactive, rather than reactive, approach to dialogue. This means, scheduling regular check-ins, creating dedicated time to discuss the health of each relationship, and developing a shared vocabulary for complex emotions like jealousy or compersion, the feeling of joy in a partner's happiness with another. These conversations are not always easy. They can be vulnerable and challenging. They require listening, not just to respond, but to understand and to validate the other person's experience, even if you do not share it. One of the most crucial aspects of this communication framework is boundary setting. Boundaries in polygamy are not walls to keep people out, but guidelines to keep the relationship safe and respectful for everyone involved. This includes agreements about time management, sexual health, how new partners are introduced, and what level of information is shared between partners. These boundaries are not static. They are living agreements that must be revisited and renegotiated as relationships evolve and circumstances change. This process of co-creating the rules of the relationship fosters a sense of shared ownership and mutual respect. Ultimately, this intense focus on communication does more than just prevent conflict. It actively builds intimacy and trust. When partners know they can bring their whole selves to the relationship, their insecurities included, and be met with empathy, the bond deepens. This skill, honed in the complex dynamics of polyamory, is transferable to all other areas of life. It teaches one how to be a better friend, a more understanding family member, and a more self-aware individual. The rigorous practice of communication required by polygamy is not a burden, but a gift that fosters profound emotional intelligence. One of the most profound and often overlooked benefits of exploring polygamy is the immense potential for personal freedom and accelerated emotional growth. When you step outside the traditional relationship escalator, the prescribed path of dating, exclusivity, cohabitation, marriage, and children, you are forced to define for yourself what you truly want from a connection. This process is an act of liberation. It frees you from the pressure of conforming to a societal script and empowers you to design a relationship structure that aligns authentically with your individual needs, desires, and capacity for love. This freedom, however, comes with a great deal of responsibility. Without a pre-written script to follow, you must become the author of your own relational life. This requires a deep level of introspection and self-awareness. You must confront your own insecurities, triggers, and patterns of behavior in a very direct way. When jealousy arises, for instance, you can't just, demand that your partner change their behavior to make you feel comfortable. Instead, you are encouraged to look inward, to understand the root of the jealousy. Is it a fear of abandonment, a feeling of inadequacy, and to work on your own emotional resilience? This internal work is where the true growth happens. Managing relationships with multiple people means you are constantly seeing yourself reflected through different lenses. Each partner brings out different facets of your personality and challenges you in unique ways. One partner might nurture your intellectual side, while another connects with your playful, adventurous spirit. This multiplicity of experience prevents you from becoming complacent or one-dimensional. It is a constant catalyst for self-discovery, pushing you to become a more well-rounded, adaptable, and emotionally intelligent human being. Ultimately, this journey fosters a sense of emotional sovereignty. You learn that your happiness and security are not dependent on a single person's validation or presence. You build a resilient sense of self that is nourished by multiple sources of love and connection, but is not contingent upon any one of them. This creates a stable inner core, a wellspring of self-love and confidence. The freedom inherent in polygamy is not about the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to become who you truly are, weaving the diverse threads of your experiences into a rich and complex tapestry of self. My personal journey through the landscape of multi-partner love has been one of profound learning and surprising revelations. After the initial heartbreak that set me on this path, my first experience with the 3-month rule was both terrifying and liberating. Explaining the concept to a new potential partner required immense vulnerability. I fully expected to be rejected, to be seen as complicated or indecisive. Instead, I was met with curiosity and a respect for my honesty. This person appreciated the clarity and the intention behind the structured transition, and it set a powerful precedent for open communication from the very beginning of our connection. I recall a specific moment of challenge, about a month into a new relationship, when a wave of grief from my previous partner hit me unexpectedly. In a monogamous context, I would have hidden this, fearing it would be seen as a red flag, a sign I wasn't over my ex. Instead, I shared it with my new partner. I explained that the sadness wasn't about wanting to go back, but was simply a part of my healing process. Their compassionate response: "Of course you're sad. It was an important part of your life. Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me," was a revelation. It transformed a moment of potential conflict into a moment of profound intimacy. There have also been moments of immense joy that are unique to this structure. Witnessing a partner's happiness and growth in their relationship with someone else, an experience known as compersion, is a beautiful and expansive feeling. It dismantles the possessive, scarcity-based mindset of traditional romance and replaces it with a sense of shared abundance. I remember feeling a surge of warmth and pride seeing a partner return from a wonderful weekend with their other partner, glowing with happiness. Their joy did not diminish our connection. It added to the overall ecosystem of happiness that we were all a part of. These experiences have solidified my belief that polygamy, when practiced ethically and intentionally, is not a lesser form of commitment, but a different, and in some ways, more demanding. 1. It has required me to become a better communicator, a more empathetic listener, and a more self-aware individual. It has challenged my insecurities and forced me to grow in ways I never would have within a conventional framework. These stories from the frontier of love are not about perfection. They are about the messy, beautiful, and deeply human process of building connection on one's own terms, with honesty and courage as the guiding stars. In the end, this exploration of polygamy and multi-partner love is not about proclaiming one relationship structure as superior to all others. Monogamy can be a beautiful and fulfilling path for many people. Rather, my journey has been about questioning the assumption that it is the only valid path. It is about advocating for a more inclusive and compassionate understanding of the diverse ways in which humans can love, connect, and heal. For me, moving beyond the confines of serial monogamy has been the key to finding a sense of emotional balance and resilience that had previously eluded me. The principles at the heart of ethical polygamy, radical honesty, deep communication, personal accountability, and the management of jealousy, are not niche skills for a select few. They are essential tools for healthy human connection in any form. By consciously engaging with these practices, I have cultivated a more secure attachment style, not just with my partners, but with myself. The fear of catastrophic loss that once haunted me has been replaced by a quiet confidence in my ability to navigate change, to hold space for both joy and grief, and to build love that is adaptive and resilient. My belief in polygamy as a healing mechanism stems from its inherent rejection of the scarcity model of love. It operates on a principle of abundance, suggesting that the heart's capacity for connection is not finite, and that loving one person does not mean having less love to give another. This perspective has been profoundly healing. It has allowed me to honor the significance of past relationships, without letting them hold my future hostage. It has allowed me to build a supportive constellation of connections, a safety net of love and intimacy that provides stability and nourishment from multiple sources, creating a more balanced emotional life. Embracing love in multiples is, at its core, an embrace of personal freedom and a commitment to conscious relationship design. It is about having the courage to look at the blank canvas of your life and paint a picture of love that is true to you, even if it doesn't look like the pictures in the gallery of social convention. For those who have been wounded by the rigid structures of the past, it offers a path forward. Not a path that avoids pain, but one that integrates it, learns from it, and uses it to build a more expansive, honest, and balanced emotional world. It is a testament to the idea that love, in all its forms, can be a force for profound healing.